South Central Oklahoma radio station saying they not playing her music. Now shout out to Just Otto because they posted this thread. And at the top, it says I requested Texas Hold'em at my local country radio station. And after requesting it, I received this email from the radio station saying that we do not play Beyonce on KYKC as we are a country music station.
You know what it is. I think it's very clear that they're trying to keep a specific type of audience on that specific type of radio station.
That's what it is.
You know? I mean, I don't see it any other way.
Yeah. Black people aren't their targeted audience. George Bush doesn't like black people.
Bombastic side-eye.
Okay, Kanye.
This the kind of beat to go, this the kind of beat to go, this the kind of beat to go, rock, top, top.
Blah, blah, blah. Welcome back to another episode of the Petty Headquarters. I'm your host, Tiana Locke, and this is
Jessie Strange.
And today we have a very different video for you guys, very different topic. And today we are going to be talking and diving deep into Beyonce and her debut into country music, even though this is not really her first rodeo. She has had country songs in the past, but I guess ever since she released her country song, it became the #1 hit on the charts. There's been a lot of controversy in the country world as well as the Black space, especially when it comes to Black artists being in country music.
Yeah.
So we're going to dive deep into that and explore that. And we have some questions when it comes to diversifying, like Black artists diversifying country music and like what Beyonce has contributed to that, the negativity surrounding that, as well as the positivity surrounding that, and all of those things.
But also we're going to talk about how this subject even came about, right? Because we were not going to cover this particular topic, but then we realized wow, this is a big conversation, especially in the podcasting world, so we're really excited. Finally, we're breaking away from the Baddies East for some refreshing content. Love baddies, okay, but we need some good conversations over here that's not so wild
it's nothing personal. But yes, this also is going to entail our experience at On Air Fest, which is a podcast convention that happened in Brooklyn, which me personally, I wouldn't even look at that as a podcast convention, but when you type in podcast conventions, that event pops up. So should we just start with our experience at the fest first before we dive into Beyonce? This is going to be a two-parter, our experience and then going into Beyonce and country music and all this stuff.
For sure, yeah. So we booked these tickets to On Air Fest and wanted to see how we can just basically, get more information and learn about the podcasting world because, visually on YouTube, we have a community, thankfully.
Right.
But it's hard to break into audio, right? So we were just going there and my experience, I mean, it was interesting, right?
Right.
So you want to go first and talk about how you feel? How was your experience?
Okay, so I guess we should just break it down. So we only paid for one day. That was March 1st. This convention or festival was like a weekend thing from Friday to what? Sunday?
I think it was Thursday and Friday.
Thursday, Friday? It was just 2 days?
I think so, yeah.
So we only paid for one day, which was March 1st, which is that one Friday instead of the whole thing. It was $175 per person for just general admission. So that's already off the bat a pretty expensive ticket.
And the way it was sold online was, it was going to be worth the investment. So we're like, you know what? Fuck it. We're going to go check it out. It's in Brooklyn. It's a great place to network or whatever.
Yeah.
And yes, it was a great place to network. But for $175, what we got in return really wasn't worth that. I think it was, they definitely should have done a lot more in a sense of maybe making the flyers a little bit more legible. Being more specific of what and who, because this is the one question I had asked. I'm like, it'd be interesting to ask this question, which was, who is this catered to?
Right.
Because $175 is not cheap. Your average person isn't just going to drop $175 unless they have intentions on being there and specific intentions. So I'm curious to know who it was catered to. But other than the fact that the price was, I think, a little it was overpriced, I still think that there was a lot of things we learned. I learned.
For sure. Yeah, you can say we as a collective, for sure.
I think we learned a few things and, took a few pointers, but I don't necessarily think it was worth the $175.
Yeah. I wasn't really sure what to expect. One thing that I really did like, I guess, there was a photo shoot happening. There was a free photo shoot. There was on the 6th floor, what it was like Netflix on now or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were doing free photo shoots for people. So that was cool. We got our little photo shoot, a little headshots or whatever. So that was cute.
We got to meet some dope photographers. Daniel, Jimmy. I actually checked out Jimmy's Instagram. He's actually a really amazing photographer.
Yeah, they're both really amazing photographers.
They took amazing photos. You're going to see it on our Instagrams. Go follow our handles to go see that because they did a really good job. Right.
They definitely did. So yeah, we met some cool people. It was, whatever we could get out of the experience. For me personally, it did just seem like, I guess what took place at this event mostly was just live shows, live podcast shows. And I guess these podcasts are pretty popular and established. That was one of the things that we realized while being there, is that a lot of the people there was already with a podcast network.
Yeah.
Or you've been in the game for 3+ years. So you know what I mean?
If you're either that or you're a fan of the podcast.
Exactly. That's what it felt like. Or you probably worked on the production team as the producer or the sound engineer, you know, and stuff like that. So that was pretty much the vibe. And like you said, going back to $175 a ticket, it does seem like it is more catered to people that have their established podcasts already or were already invited to do a panel or something like that.
And also the type of podcast you found there was more so documentary style,
politics, history.
Yes, which is great.
Right.
But I feel like, and this is where I talk about, seeing an opportunity. I feel like On Air Fest has great potential to be great,
Right.
But I just feel like they need to open their minds to, I would say, pop culture in general, and not just, talking about I did see that we met a couple of people who own their own podcast, and there was one that, they break down music. But I'm not talking about in a sense of technical. I'm talking about something like what we do, right? We bring pop culture, internet culture, and we take it more serious. So what I noticed the flaws in the comment section under Hollywood Unlocked or On Site is that there's so much fighting that there's no room for conversation.
Agreed, yeah.
Right? There's just so much hate, so much
negativity,
trolling,
for sure. Yeah.
Right? And then there's ignorance that there's no room.
100%.
There's no room for conversation. And that's what I think I want to, what we do here is we allow for those conversations and we try to look at everybody's perspective so that here it's a safe space instead of, back and forth arguing and getting absolutely nowhere. You know what I'm saying? So they lack that. And I feel like that's what kind of made me feel a little out of place because they hear the petty headquarters and they're immediately like, all right. We don't take you serious.
Right.
That was kind of the vibe.
That was the vibe. And instead of actually, but I feel like we've been dealing with that since day one.
That's true.
Which is crazy. We've been dealing with that even with strangers on the internet, that if we said something about B. Simone, even though our episodes are deep dives and really dissecting it and not, what people think would come with the name, right? They hear the petty headquarters and automatically assume that it's going to be some ratchet shit. You don't have any structure. You're not organized.
You guys just talking.
You're just talking. And that's the opposite. Honestly, we are doing deep dives, but we're just doing it about shit that's crazy.
And exactly. And the things that you see, the things that you see online and then people just hate comment on. I feel like there's just this negative connotation to the things that we cover.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you saw that too, because we try to get interviews to make content.
So we try to get content, those quick, short interviews that we usually do. We try to do that there, but that was just a dub.
It wasn't
happening.
It was interesting because we were gonna cover a popular topic, and we asked people like before we start recording, we asked them if they know about it. Then, they were like, yeah, and then we're like, do you mind if we put you on camera? And immediately no, which is fine. But I bring that up to say people see what they see online on TikTok that goes viral, and they're like, oh no, I don't want to be a this, I don't want to be that. Because they think what they're seeing online is like the full story. Yeah. It's the truth.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, what you see online is not the full context. And I just feel like people associate TikTok and
just social media, period.
Those interview videos as like you're gonna sabotage me or you're gonna do something, and then we're the petty headquarters. So
right.
It was a little like that, but yeah.
Yeah, but I just think it's interesting that those people had so much to say. Like, they had so much good things to say, gold things to say. But as soon as it was on camera, they didn't want to say it. Like, what you said is fine. But I feel like these are the same people that have their Finstas or talk shit on Instagram and social media as a whole. But then they're the first to look at social media and believe everything like a basic consumer. But then again, you're hiding behind an account talking shit, trolling. But you don't want to... Yeah, you don't want to share your true feelings, which again is fine, but it's not like we were asking controversial questions. That's like the point. Israel or Palestine or Joe Biden or Trump. We weren't asking that. Those are very controversial questions. We weren't asking that. Like, I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. We were simply asking about Wendy Williams.
Yeah,
that's a very simple, like, you know what I mean? So
and that's that. I think that kind of segue into what I wanted to say, because throughout meeting people in the convention, and I think that perfectly segues into what I wanted to say, because throughout meeting people, we noticed that there was a popular topic that was being covered in the podcast world, which is Beyonce's entry to country music. And we, I heard about it online, a little bit. But I think it's interesting because going back to what you were saying about people, who hide behind, forums and stuff like that. I think I didn't realize how much of a conversation it is. And after researching for this, because that's how this came about, we're like, you know what, maybe let's cover this, because it's interesting how this is an actual conversation. I noticed that it's a conversation predominantly in the white community, obviously, because country and white people or whatever, the white community is
country
popular.
Music is predominantly white people.
There you go.
That's just what it is.
And but I also noticed that there wasn't, like, the conversations that were being had were on like Reddit forums and Twitter, things where people can hide behind the camera,
right? Or just hide behind an account.
Behind an account.
Right.
But when you go online and look up YouTube and stuff like that, there's not much people speaking what they're really saying behind those accounts where you can hide anonymous. And I thought that was interesting, because it's true. Like, going back to the same thing again, like, people are quick to say things, but then when you put a face to it, it's like, oh no,
Right.
But that's how we came about with that topic. And a good thing to say about the convention was that we met some really cool people.
Yeah.
We got a topic. We got our topic for today.
Right.
So that's that. But we met some really cool people, met some really cool podcasters. I really like, which I'll be using them as a source in this show, which was
Our Body Politic.
I always forget. Our Body Politic, which is a great podcast. It was very informational. And so that was my overall experience. And you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't really have much to say about that. I feel like now we can just jump right into our main topic, which is Beyonce.
Yeah.
So Beyonce released her hit single called Texas Hold'em, which was released on February 11th. And that was during the Super Bowl. And a lot of people loved it. A lot of people had a lot to say, and it stirred up a lot of noise. And so we just gonna talk about that, because she made history.
She did
in the U.S. Country charts, becoming the first Black woman to score a #1 hit single with her latest, obviously her song Texas Hold'em. And the last Black woman to do that was back in 2007. Her name was Reese Palmer, and her song was called Country Girl. So that was the last song that topped the country music charts back in 2007. And before that was back in 1987 by someone by the name of Donna Mason. But she wasn't really singing she was like on the track, but she wasn't like the main person.
Okay.
So, I mean, anywho. So seeing that this is obviously a big deal, we just wanted to take it back and start with the origins and the roots of country music, because I feel like in order for us to really have a conversation about this and dissect it, we got to take it back. We got to take it to the source. We got to start from the beginning. So what a lot of people don't know is that, melodies of many early country hits or music was definitely hymns performed by Black ministries in the South. And the banjo is an instrument that was rooted in Africa. And a lot of people don't know that. And obviously the sound transcended and changed over time. But the banjo was one of that main instrument that's heavily used in country music, came from Africa, was used in Africa, was used in many different songs. There's a lot of Black country artists dating back to the 60s and 70s that a lot of people don't know about, which I think is interesting. Even Tina Turner had a country album, which a lot of people don't know about. Mm-hmm. Some of the people dating back to the 60s and 70s include the Pointer Sisters, Linda Martell, Charlie Pride, and more. Which I think is really interesting because Black people have been playing and utilizing the banjo for many years before it was popularized by white people to be utilized in their country music. So I know you had a reference that you wanted to bring up.
Yeah, so on the podcast, Our Body Politic, I think it's a great episode. I think you guys should go check it out on your own time. It's great information. But they had a guest speaker. She is a professor, studied music or whatever. And I don't remember her name. I know her first name is Francesca. And she said it well. So I'm going to play what she said in regards to the roots.
Now, in terms of the roots of country music, what were the contributions of Black artists to the roots of the entire genre?
Well, for sure, if you go right to like one of the central sounds of country music, to the banjo, that is an instrument whose roots are in African music. It's an instrument that was brought over.
The banjo is an African instrument.
Yes, the banjo is an African instrument, and the instrument has been adapted and changed over the years. But definitely for a long time in the 18th and 19th century, banjo music was perceived by people who were writing about it in the United States as Black American music. What's an important part of the step of where we get to country music as white has to do with blackface minstrelsy, the love and theft of Black folk traditions and caricatures of Black performers and Black bodies, where Black folk music and Black dance and banjo traditions became places of parody and satire performed by white musicians. And really the stories that were being told about this music was that it was authentically white mountain music that was always connected to white immigrants and white Southern culture. But I think that bridge of blackface minstrelsy is the thing that sometimes gets avoided.
So that was definitely a really good take. And I feel like that's something that's important that we need to talk about. That's something that's important that people need to know because, our own people too could be ignorant to stuff like this because they just don't know. People are just not aware. And one of the things that I listened to a little bit of that podcast as well. And one of the things that I really liked that was said was that it's not about being let in, it's about being true to their roots. Because at the end of the day, whether you're white or Black, I feel like country music is going to obviously have a different meaning to someone who's Black as opposed to someone who's white, considering the history and where country music came from for Black folks as opposed to where country music came from for white folks. And you may be listening to this and wondering, why you gotta talk about white and Black? But we do because that's a part of the history. And this is gonna come up because of a lot of the negativity that's being said in the media. And we're gonna get to that. So
right. And also it's a good conversation to have, right? Like I feel like a lot of people get mad. We're like, why you gotta bring up Black and white? That's our history.
Right.
In America. I mean, in the world, really, but like in America specifically, we're talking about that's our history, right? Just because it's happened certain years ago doesn't mean that it's not a good conversation to have. And because of the fact that we're having this conversation goes to show you that there's still a lot of ignorance. And if you're not having the conversation, you're contributing to the problem.
Right.
The point of social media, the point of having the conversation, whether it's online or not, is to educate people and learn from other people's perspectives.
Right.
And when you're not having that, but then have the audacity to bitch about it in the comments, then
Right.
you're literally contributing. You're like the voters, the people who don't vote and then complain about America. But it's like, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not, look, hey.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you're not even trying to do nothing about it, why are you complaining?
Right.
And that's in life. So
Right.
don't, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
throughout history, there has been many stories of Black folk getting their music or their artistry stolen from, especially back in the day when it wasn't even okay for Black people to have any type of rights, right? And that doesn't, just because back then doesn't mean that talents didn't exist.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
people were talented back then. They just, social media didn't exist. They weren't given the time of day. They didn't have
or
the
they
right.
were just Black and they
That's what
felt
I'm saying.
like, oh, you can't be this talented
Right.
because you're Black, and then all of a sudden mysteriously end up
Well, I was going to bring up Robert Johnson.
Right.
Right.
Mysteriously end up disappearing. No one knows why.
So I didn't know about Robert Johnson until I went to college and I studied. It was a credit class for the study of music history, and I did not know where this would take me, and it was so mind blowing to learn about Robert Johnson. His name is Robert Leroy Johnson, and this is a story that takes place from May 8th, 1911 to August 16, 1938, where he was murdered. He was an American blues musician and a songwriter. His landmark recordings in 1936 and 1937 display a combination of singing, guitar skills, basically an innovator of blues, right? And the story goes like this. The story goes that Robert Leroy Johnson, mind you, he died at a very young age. He died at the age of 27, and his career lasted only 7 months. And because he was really good at playing guitar, and the story goes that people believe that he had sold his soul to the devil to become that talented as a musician. And that is a reflection of the mindset, right? Like, the mindset back then is, you're Black, you can't be naturally talented, so you must have sold your soul to the devil to get that good. And there's no coincidence that, he dies 7 months later after becoming this huge, he was gaining popularity, and he died, and they murdered him with only 7 months of being able to do what he wanted to do as a musician. And I say that to say, because that is just one of the many examples that go throughout history of things like this happening.
Right. I like that you brought that up, because it's true. A lot of people don't know any of these things.
You didn't know.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know. So when you told me that, I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy. And I'm not surprised that they try to blame it on, what did they say? He died from cancer?
Ammonia?
Pneumonia.
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 Yeah, they tried to say that he died from pneumonia. And it's like, bitch, be fucking for real.
Yeah, no, but they ended up finding his body and he was actually murdered. And,
Right. Right. So again, all of this kind of like is going to tie into what we're going to talk about in regards to the reactions to Beyonce and just country music as a whole. And I guess people feeling entitled, to gatekeep country music. I don't know.
Well, the conversation comes because people are saying, in the country world, it's like, why is Beyonce, coming to country? It brings up the Black community coming into the country world, that conversation. And it's not the first time we've had this conversation.
Right.
Because the thing is that there are many Black artists that have
been in the country world
for like
but
long.
Because Beyonce is Beyonce and she made a country song which topped the charts, now it's in your face. Now you can see it, so it's like, oh my God, why is it all this stuff? When it's been happening for a long time, those artists just weren't Beyonce, so you didn't know about it. But I just wanted to bring up a point where a fan called into KYKC station in Oklahoma and requested to hear Beyonce's new hit country song, and they denied them. They said no. And
What?
so a fan, I'm surprised you haven't heard about this.
I did not hear about that. What?
Yes, and I'll play a video for you later, but I have a whole tweet here where this person said, I requested Texas Hold'em at my local country radio station, KYKC, and after requesting, I received an email from the radio station stating, in quotes, "We do not play Beyonce on KYKC as we are a country music station." Now, at this time, there were other country stations playing her song. How else would it become a hit, right?
Mhm.
But I guess this one in Oklahoma decided, oh, she's not country, right? So the email says, yeah, like what I just said. Hi, we do not play Beyonce on KYKC as we're a country music station. Thank you. And at the bottom, they have the audacity to say, these stations do not discriminate in the sale of advertising time, and we will accept no advertising that might discriminate based on race, gender, They have that whole disclaimer about the discriminatory shit, right? But then this person responds to them, and they're like, Texas Hold'em is a new song, and it is a country song, and it's also labeled as country on Spotify and Apple Music. Please play this song and stop being discriminatory towards her. By the way, Black people created country music.
Mm-hmm.
And so the station responded and said, we will check it out. If it's appropriate to the format, we will play it. Meanwhile, we play tons of Beyonce on our 99.3 station and lots more on our 105.5 station. So, quote unquote, discriminatory, we are not. Thanks. Very passive aggressive.
Wow.
So, yeah, I'm also going to play this little quick video just for you to digest it better.
And just when we thought country music stations was going to let Beyonce in, here goes KYKC of South Central Oklahoma radio station saying they not playing her music. Now shout out to Just Otto because they posted this thread. And at the top, it says I requested Texas Hold'em at my local country radio station. And after requesting it, I received this email from the radio station saying that we do not play Beyonce on KYKC as we are a country music station. Now you can pause to read it, but it says we do not play Beyonce, basically what the tweet said. And not them with the disclaimer, honey. It says these stations do not discriminate in the sales of advertising time and will accept no advertisement that might discriminate on the basis of race, gender, or ethnicity. But you just said you don't play what? Now another person who called the radio station stated this. They said, okay, Beehive, I just got off the phone with KYKC manager and they said, and I quote, we love Beyonce. We will play her song soon as it hits other country radio stations. The person goes on to say, well, that's fine, but in all honesty, it's such a high quality, good music, it should be already playing. I mean, they literally said they're not going to play it unless other country music stations are playing it. Now, another person asked in the comments, are they listening to the song or are they just rejecting the request based on you know what? Which is a valid question because why are you rejecting it? Now, as soon as I hear anything from KYKC from Oklahoma, I'll keep you guys posted. But let's just hope this is not the start of some sort of radio station boycott of Beyonce's music.
Yeah, so that was that. I just think it's very interesting because you have that as well as a wave of a lot of people just feeling like Beyonce should not enter the country world, period.
Well, okay, so I was trying to understand the other perspective, right? Because I'm like, what, right? What is this? Like, why are people so bothered? And there are people who say, oh, well, didn't hip hop criticize Eminem when he came up and said that hip hop is for Black people? And isn't that what, the hip hop community does when a white person comes into a predominantly, Latino and Black culture? Which I thought was a interesting take. But then you hear people who rebuttal that and say, well, the difference is that Eminem came up with rap. He didn't come in singing rock and then transition to rap, right? And which is a good point, right? But I think what makes Eminem not a good example is that Eminem, what he raps about is his real life. He grew up in what he raps about. He is rap. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's his culture, whether he's white or Black. That's his roots.
I think that's why people kind of like were more acceptable of Eminem, I feel like.
I don't think they were that acceptable.
After a while.
But I think what's interesting about this is that Beyonce is from Texas. She's from the country. So it's not like, yes, she started off from an R&B and is, touching into the country now. but it's not like she's like pretending to be Little Miss Valley from the, you know, like she's really from Texas. She's really country. Even when you hear her speak, like, you know, her the way she is very country. You don't see city girl in her.
No.
So it's like interesting because yes, that's a valid point, but Eminem is respected because that's his roots. Why can't Beyonce be respected as well? You know, I find that interesting.
You know, also what a lot of people don't know is that she actually has made a country song before called Daddy Lessons, which is on the album called Lemonade. That song I like. Texas Hold'em, I'm not really a fan of that song. But Daddy Lessons is a really good song. And that's a country song that she has on the album, but I guess it flew over everyone's heads. So now they hear this and all of a sudden it's causing uproar because I guess like this is the one hit single. It's not coming out with an album. So one of the things that I wanted to touch on was that they conducted a poll. So a poll by the major country music Instagram account as well as the publication Country Central, right? They basically conducted a poll to ask whether you think Beyonce belongs in country or not. And out of 7,496 respondents, 6,299 agreed with the statement Beyonce shouldn't be considered a country artist. And that is 84% of country fans who do not believe Beyonce's songs should be considered country. So they feel like she just shouldn't be considered a country artist. Yeah. And so I wanted to talk about something that I saw on Instagram, which is, again, dating back to everything that we talked about in the beginning. Ever since Beyonce, you know, put out that song and it broke and it hit the charts and all that stuff, you know, there's this post that I follow and it was just showing love to all the Black artists that have been in country for a bit now, right? And so they were just showing love to all the country artists that you may not know about. You know about Beyonce's hit song, but you may not know about these people that have been in it for a long time. So let's like show love and recognition to these people that have been in it. You know?
For sure.
I saw a comment, and I don't have the screenshot, but girl, I saw a comment of, you know, this typical patriotic individual commenting and saying, what did she say? She said, oh, I don't like where country music is headed. People are coming in and ruining the art and trying to make it like hip hop. And that right there had racist tendencies to me, because where does hip hop come in when they are actually making country music? Is it because you're just seeing Black people making country music and it makes you feel some type of way because of how you historically grew up on your country music?
Well, I also think that that's the easy perspective, but I think it can.
I understand your perspective
No,
with Eminem when you mentioned that point.
I'm talking about something now. Like I'm here to voice the other side, right? So that is definitely the obvious.
Right.
The obvious perspective. But also what's happening if you want to look at it through the lens of music, right? Hip hop is dying. Hip hop is dying. So
is it?
Yeah, it is. What artists have you seen remain on the top consecutively?
When we talk about hip hop, because now we're getting deep. When we talk about hip hop, what are you talking about? You talking about lyricism?
The culture.
So like the old school culture.
No, in general. So I feel like, hear me out. Just listen.
I'm listening.
Hip hop is becoming you don't see monumental figures anymore. You don't see people who have a huge following, like, you know, who really like, people are like, yo, this guy's a rapper. Yeah. You have the old guys who are going to retire in the next 15 years. You got J. Cole, you got Kendrick. Right. You have people like Kanye. Kanye's respected, you know, Jay-Z, if you want, you know.
Nas.
Yes, thank you. Those type of people who are monumental in the culture. But those are the old folks. What young people in hip hop have you seen that I'm not talking about virality. I'm not talking about those, because that's where Ice Spice comes in, because it's like those TikTok-y songs that have no value. It's more for like a catch. Yeah. And then it goes away in the next 4 years. You know what I'm saying? It's those type. That's what hip hop is becoming. Yeah. And also, this is gonna get deep. Because hip hop, the culture, the way it's become is when you're in that world, you have fancy cars, big jewelry, Gucci, expensive clothes, high fashion, and in a world where the economy is struggling, jobs are a lot of people are jobless. Everything right now is tight. Inflation is high. People are really like your average poor, like your average middle class is lowering, becoming poorer because it's harder to live. Hip hop doesn't become relatable. You look at these people like people with money who are complaining. You got Ryan Garcia, Justin Bieber, all these people who are complaining about these high pay money deals. Like even Monique talking about, and I'm just saying this just for just for the story. She complained about Netflix giving her $500,000 for a
special.
$500,000 for a special. Meanwhile, she wanted $1 million. That's some rich people shit, right? Like, we don't care about that when we're trying to struggle, pay for our bills. And I'm just saying that for just an example, but that's what you see. I feel like hip hop has become less relatable, less monumental figures in the space. When you got somewhere like country, when you see these country singers blow up, they're not fucking riding around in Gucci's and Louis.
No.
They stay in the same core relatability. They're country.
Right.
And I feel like because they can still relate to their fans, it creates this core fandom that you don't see in hip hop no more.
Right.
So yes, it could have the underlying tones, and I'm not speaking for the girl. I mean, definitely could that. But I feel like it is a good question because not from a racist perspective, not from a colorism perspective, and I'm not saying Beyonce doesn't belong in country too. I'm just trying to speak for perspective.
No, I understand what you're saying.
Do you think that if Beyonce can just come in and do it, does it wash down the genre? I personally don't think so, but it's a good conversation to have.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. However, I feel like when I was talking about that lady's comment under the post, I don't see how that relates to changing the story when those Black country artists had the same story. It's relatable, but to their story. Do you know what I mean? If they're not doing country songs about materialism or Gucci or, high fashion. No, they're doing country how country was to its roots, period. Exactly. It's just Black.
And I think that Beyonce is a great pioneer for that because she also isn't running around with fucking Louis and all these things. Like when she walks around, you don't see her in a lot of jewelry unless she's performing or whatever. But there was this post I recently saw where she talks about how she loves this big black hoodie that she wears, and she loves it because, and it's, mind you, she look casual as hell. She look like, covered up. But she's like, because I can put the hood over and get away with being in Target without being noticed. And it goes back to that vibe. It's not like Beyonce sitting here fucking coming in with big chains, bringing in that hip hop culture to country. I feel like she's not even being innovative in that sense. She's just an artist who is true to her roots.
Right.
Is from Texas,
literally.
Doesn't sit here and try to bring hip hop elements to the fucking or R&B elements to anything. She really, I
think that's what the point that I was trying to get across in the beginning. Like, I hear your point for sure on that point.
It's not my point. I'm just saying that's what they're saying.
Hear that because I have questions later that like further discusses stuff about that. But I feel like, when people are so quick, the patriots are so quick to be like, oh, you're going to turn it into hip hop. Like, I feel like that has some type of underlying discriminatory tendencies, whether you like to realize it or not, because I've seen, I follow a lot of like Black art on Instagram, whether it's for punk rock, whether it's for alternative music, goth, all of those avenues that people don't expect to see a lot of Black people in. Yeah. I follow a lot of those pages. So I'm always seeing that. Yeah. And I'm always like gaining my information on different things about that. Cause like I love, I'm a part of a Black girls alternative group as well. So it's like, I understand what that's like, but these people are staying true to the art.
Right.
You know what I mean? Whether you're
It's
black,
them.
whether you're black, white, whatever, if it's country, it's still country.
Right.
If it's alternative, it's still alternative. Whether it's goth, it's still goth. Whether you're black, Indian, or white. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. A lot of these black artists that they were shedding light on, it was still country. Literally, if you didn't see the person, you'd be like, what the fuck? Especially if you don't like country music. You hear it and you're like, what the fuck is this shit? And then when you see it's black people, you're like, oh, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So I feel like they're still staying true to the roots. So for you to say, oh, they're going to bring hip hop in is very ignorant.
Yeah.
It just has underlying, discriminatory tendencies, because you see that Beyonce's created a wave, even though it's been a thing before Beyonce. But I guess because she hit the charts, now it's giving a new awareness.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
How do you feel about Beyonce doing country? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I was gonna wait for that, getting my being ready. I feel like, okay, so Beyonce, one of the questions that I did have, yes, everyone is saying, she's true to her roots. She is from Texas, but then it makes me wonder, right? Because her last album was house music. So
It catered to
I
it was
feel like
catered to the LGBTQ.
Right, but yes.
It was.
Yes.
It
yes.
was.
Right. So it makes me
Good point.
wonder, is this because you're going back to your roots, or is this because you are just trying new things, or you're trying to reach a new demographic?
Or is it a cash grab? Because like I said,
That
country
too.
is up. When you look at overall music,
I feel like country been up though for a minute.
Yes.
Country's been solid.
and it's getting higher. There
Uh-huh.
are more people getting into country. Afrobeats is up, country's up, hip hop is declining.
On piano, yeah.
Reggaeton is going up. Like all this, like all these other genres are going up. Hip hop is declining.
Yeah.
Do you think, like, that's a good question, because there's a lot of people saying this is just, and this was originally my take.
Yeah, that's
This
one
was
of the questions I
originally-
had too.
This was originally my take. It's just another money grab, because at the end of the day, R&B is a little slow. She's been doing it forever. She's clearly experimenting.
Like, is she bored? That's what I'm thinking. Like,
I
low-key feel like, are you bored? Like,
But like, I can't be mad
she's
at
been doing it for so long.
I can't be mad at it though, because I'm sitting here bitching that Drake sounds the same. At least she's trying new things.
Right.
But the thing about the music industry is, and honestly, kind of the arts in general, you have to know your audience. And I feel like because you have to know your audience, sometimes it could be a little bit targeted.
Mhm.
So like, I feel like the last album, because this was a thing where it was targeted towards LGBTQ.
But that shit was fire.
And it was good. But this is she catering? Like, is she targeting now this demographic? Is it a
Right.
money grab? Is it a business thing, or is it
Right.
genuine? At least, I don't know. But I like I said, if she's doing it good, I can't really be mad at it, right? Because at the end of the day, I feel like there's a lot more positive in Beyonce going into country than not. Because these Black artists have been in the game forever. And because of Beyonce, unfortunately, I mean, as an artist, they must feel like shit, you know?
Right.
Or
Or they may feel happy. Like, now finally, maybe we get to get more recognition.
You
and
get more
stuff.
recognition because someone big came into the scene and shined light onto your, into your small group of people. But I can understand as an artist, like, oh, you're just Beyonce, so you could just walk in and fucking just, I've been putting in work for 10 years, kind of like what B. Simone did.
I understand that too.
Right.
As
So,
a fellow gatekeeper.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I can understand both perspectives, but I feel like there's more pros in it than any kind of cons. And I feel like whoever, is hating on Beyonce, look, I'm not a big Beyonce fan. And I say this all the time, but I'm not biased either. Like, she did good. I think it's a great song. I'm not into country either, but it's a great song. And I think that, I can't let my bias be biased.
The Texas Hold'em is I don't like that song.
It got me nodding my head.
Daddy Lessons is so much better. I feel like also Daddy Lessons is such a strong song where when you talk about just like the story, like just telling your story, that song is really just about her dad, telling her she had to be strong out the womb. So I don't know, but yes, continue.
But yeah. So, I mean, that's really my my take on that. But like I said, you didn't answer my question. How do you feel about Beyonce coming into country music?
I feel like I don't know how to feel about it. Me personally, I'm not a fan of country music. So
True.
so I don't have much to say about it. However, maybe I can't sit here and say, oh, she's just walking in. Because part of me, I have questions about that. How I mentioned how her last album was house music. So she's trying new things. Like now this is country. So what's going on? So I don't really know. But then on top of that, I feel like, what was I going to say? Oh, this is what I was going to say. I feel like there's a lot of like hidden talents to Beyonce that a lot of people don't know about. Like, the fact that she's a writer, the fact that she's into screenwriting and like, she used to do that and all that stuff with producing and video editing. A lot of people don't even know those things about her, like those little fine-tuned things. So I'm like, okay, what if she was already into country and we didn't know that either? Because she already had a country song on her album, Lemonade. Yeah. So I don't know. So I feel like I don't know what to say. Me personally,
you know what you just reminded me of?
What?
So, like, I thought it was interesting because, listen, this is just going off the context here, but I think it's interesting that there are podcasts out there who we've met who literally break down her song, like tempo, rhythm, beat, how many, I don't know the fucking sound engineering fucking terms, okay? Yeah. Just know that they're breaking it down to see if it's officially country music. And I think it's interesting because it's like, are you doing that with every country artist?
I agree. Are you?
Just reminded me of that. I was like, it's the fact that this is even existing. But again, it's like,
I just feel like, why y'all so pressed? Like, I don't know. It's giving you're not happy about it. The people that have been talking about it, it's giving you're not that happy. You're not that happy about it. But I don't want to say too much.
Right.
So this just brings me into one of the questions that I had. Like, so would you, for the people that feel some type of way about Beyonce entering country and don't think that she should be considered a country artist at all, do you think that it has underlying discriminatory tones, or do you think that it's because they just think Beyonce is overrated? Or a little bit of both?
I think mostly because of the
discriminatory
okay. For sure. I feel like people who say that I feel like it's more than just Beyonce at that point, because if you're thinking like that, I feel like you're a very extreme person and you're very stuck in your ways. So I feel like even if it's Beyonce or another Black artist, I think they're going to feel the same. I just wonder, like, how do you feel about Taylor Swift? Because she came in as country. She was a country girl. I loved Taylor Swift when she was country. Then when she went to pop, I wasn't fucking with it. But a lot of people still fuck with it, and her fan base is ridiculous. She's on the same level as Beyonce. Well, that goes back to what we say all the time in regards to when, like, unfortunately, and y'all can get mad at what I'm about to say, but honestly, these are just conversations that you shouldn't get mad about. They should be had. So, like, I feel like when someone is of lighter skin tone, they're easily digestible to do things and blend in with things. When you got someone who's Black, they're looked at 10 times harder, unfortunately. And that's just from, like, the historical fucking, like, subconscious things that, right, our history and stuff like that. Or some people are just genuinely racist, but, right, I'm not, all of that exists. People are complex human beings, and I'll never understand them. But I think that's really what it is, because I'm sure it's the same thing, right? Like, it could have been any Black artist, like, they would have had the same type of criticism, in my opinion. I just feel like, out of all people, Beyonce shouldn't have been the one to be criticized. You know what I'm saying? Because she fits all those things that you're complaining about. Yeah. I just also want to know what their take is on Taylor Swift leaving country. Because a lot of people, like to talk about, because when you talk about hip hop and when you talked about the story and how we don't have that anymore and how hip hop is dying, a lot of people complain and feel like whenever there is a good hip hop artist, and then as soon as they get picked up, they change. There's no more of the story. There's no more of that relatability. And then all of a sudden it's just popping pussy, fuck bitches get money, materialism.
But it's just like Taylor Swift, she was country and then got bigger, all of a sudden just went into pop, and then just hasn't done country that much. It's mostly pop. So I just want to know how the country people feel about it, or the Taylor Swift fans, because she got a lot of crazy fans out there. So I want to know how y'all feel about that.
Yeah, that's a good question.
That's a great question.
Do y'all hold her accountable?
Thank you, because I feel like I don't hear anything about against Taylor Swift. Like I feel like she gets mad love, she gets mad support, and I'm just trying to figure out what's the difference.
That's a good question. That's a very good question. And if any of y'all listen to music, any of y'all can inform us. I would love for you to comment what your opinion. I really like your opinions, because at the end of the day, I'm not from the country. I live in the city. I love the city.
You a city girl.
I'm a city girl. I have a friend who's from the country. And even when she talks, Kira, when she be saying certain things, I'll be like, what? You know what I'm saying? But I'd love to hear y'all perspectives, because, I mean, it's a good conversation to have, you know? But yeah. So
I guess my other question is like, like I was saying, house music, and now she's doing country. Anyhow, people are saying, oh, she's going back to her roots. Like, I'm just trying to figure out, like, is she trying to appeal to a new audience, or is she just reclaiming her culture? What is that? I really want answers to these questions.
Yeah, Beyonce. Yeah, we gotta put that guy.
I love you, Beyonce.
So Beyonce, I love you, Beyonce.
Yo, he went so crazy.
Yo,
bro.
We need answers, Beyonce.
Not Beyonce. She ain't giving no damn answers.
She don't give nobody no answers.
So I guess do you have any answers to that or no?
No, not really. I mean, those are really things that artists are have their own agendas, and I really don't know. It could be so many different things. Like I said though, compared to the shit that I complain about with Drake, him sounding the same for the last fucking 10 years, and I was in high school listening to Sad Boy Drake, and now have a whole career and still listening to Sad Boy Drake. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I complain about that. Honestly, I'd much rather an artist who has been in the game for so long to experiment. I think it's nice, and as an artist, we don't always make our best shit. We experiment. We're artists. You know how many things online you can look up Jesse Strange and see the variety of videos that I've done, and it's like, wow,
it's true.
You were this, you were that. Yeah,
it's always changing.
Always, and I would hope
as you grow,
And that was our criticism for Drake, was like, okay, sir, I'm not making the stupid videos I was making back then because I can't relate to it mentally. Why are you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I can't be mad at Beyonce for experimenting at the end of the day, and especially if she does it right, because at the end of the day, she's trying. Like,
I feel like she's still showing love to the culture,
and she don't need to.
Yeah,
she don't need to. She's Beyonce. She could literally do whatever she wants. And she's
a true artist.
Exactly.
She loves music, and that's the thing people forget. Music is universal. So it kind of like makes me kind of annoyed when people are like, oh, you want to come into this and you want to make it this. I'm like, baby, we've been doing this before y'all. Like, if we really want to keep it a buck, y'all don't want to hear that, but it's true. Where do you think Elvis got it from? Be fucking for real. You know what I mean? So I just feel like, put some respect on just the culture of music as a whole, because music comes from culture, and everybody experiences their culture and how they relate to music differently.
For sure.
Everyone's story is different, and like, we're all connected at the end of the day, and music is universal, which connects people. So I don't know. I don't like that. Like, you should be happy that your music is connecting with other people, or people find their own ways to connect with your music.
I agree.
It shouldn't be this thing where it's like, oh, you just want to make it black.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what y'all want to say.
That's the conversation.
That's literally what y'all want to say. Y'all not saying it. But that's really what y'all want to say. Like, at this point, you might as well just say it. Like, because you saying it, like, so.
It's very true. It's very true. I don't see, like, it was really hard for me I had to go look at the comments and really, like, deep dive into what people were feeling, because I just can't mentally grasp the idea of why would you be so mad. And this is the same thing with, I'll relate it to us, because whether it's big or small, life is very simple. We just, all experience different situations. But like, for example, we felt some type of way about the B. Simone and the Sims thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing, as the artist, of course, she felt some type of way. But the one thing, and I stay true to myself, one thing I said to her was like, there's always a positive in this shit. And like, yes, she did what she did, but it's bringing light to something that you've been doing for years. Right. And I'm like that. So I just don't understand how people can look at it as a negative thing when Beyonce is a huge superstar. Like, you're bringing more, not that country wasn't already huge, but like you're bringing more eyes and different people. And then it just goes back to the conversation. Are you just mad because it's bringing different people? Like, like I don't know.
I guess, that brings me to this last question. Like, what are the patriots afraid of? So like, will Black people okay, I'm just asking this in a sense, because obviously there were Black people already in the genre, but it wasn't as well known as I guess it's coming to the forefront now. So will Black people diversify the genre? And is that what the patriots are afraid of? Like, what is the fear behind diversifying country music?
I don't know. It's a good question, and I think the fear is mixed with ignorance, the lack of wanting to educate yourself.
Yeah.
Because you have access on your phone, so it's wanting to at this point to learn. But I don't know. I'm not a patriot, so I don't, and I'm not from no place where I'm in a city where we're our melting pot, so I can't even try to answer that. So if anybody knows or can really put a perspective down in the comments, that'd be great, because I don't know. It's a good question.
If you're listening to this and you know someone that is like your typical patriot that complained about Beyonce and the whole country thing, definitely send them this episode, because I would like to know what they think as well about Beyonce, and as well as like, what are you afraid of with her entering the genre? Like, what is it? If it's not ignorance, what is it? Only thing I could think of, if it's not ignorance, is gatekeeping. That's the only thing I could think of. But my thing is, y'all stole it, so I don't know.
And I want to make it clear, right? It's not all white people, right? And I'm pretty sure that's obvious to a lot of people.
I don't even say white no more.
Right.
I'm saying patriots.
Yeah.
Because y'all are patriotic.
Right. It's the exact. That's a good word, because it's like, not just targeting white people at the end of the day. There are a bunch of white people who literally be like, why are they so mad?
It's the ones that are like,
but like I said, I live in the city, so we all like, why they so mad? Because we all experiencing different cultures. I haven't spoke to the guy from Alabama, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And that could be of any color. So I'm just saying.
And what are your thoughts on like KYKC station and why their passive micro aggressive remarks?
Yeah, I thought that was pretty crazy. I think they're just strategically saying, we're not discriminatory because we have another business on the side that has and promotes Beyonce. But I think at the end of the day, you know what it is. I think it's very clear that they're trying to keep a specific type of audience on that specific type of radio station.
That's what it is.
I mean, I don't see it any other way.
Yeah.
What about you? Oh yeah, you.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Black people aren't their targeted audience. George Bush doesn't like Black people.
Okay, Kanye.
That shit is funny. I don't care what nobody say.
Shit.
Oh man. I mean, well, that's pretty much everything that I had to say about the whole thing. Do you have any more thoughts?
No. Yeah, no, I have nothing to say, but I do want to hear your guys' thoughts on everything. I would really appreciate if you guys comment your thoughts. Also, if you're listening to us on Spotify, those reviews matter, please.
Yeah.
Spotify and Apple, but please, if you are listening to us, please go like rate the podcast, you know, give a genuine rating, but rate it and show us some love.
And on Apple Podcasts, you can leave a comment and write in a review. So if you feel like doing that, feel free.
Yeah, man, because at the end of the day, when we go to these people who have all these established places, they look at all that. And I, would love to bring people who are innovative and taking this type of, conversation to those type of places like on air fest and stuff like that, because they're not having these conversations.
They're talking about Dungeons and Dragons.
They're very cookie cutter, and I just feel like we can bring something to the table. So if you guys really fuck with us, really appreciate you guys. Show some love, comment, all that shit matters. You don't got to spend a dime. Just show some love. Send this to somewhere like someone who would appreciate this type of conversation.
Yes, 100%. So how do you feel about us having this conversation when most of our topics is mostly like, either it's Zeus Network related or it's like celebrity drama and stuff like that?
How do I feel about it?
How do you feel about it? Yeah.
What do you mean, how do I feel about it? Like, how do I feel about the topics we cover?
No, how do you feel about this topic being so different from the other topics that we usually cover?
I don't think it's that different.
I don't think it's that different either.
It's still pop culture.
It is.
And it's still a conversation amongst the people on the internet, and we're here to talk about it. And
period.
It's, we're more than just reality TV.
Agreed.
We're diverse. And I think what we focus on is not the gossip. It's how we got there. It's the core conversations, the one where you can walk away. Because you know what? I hate those kind of podcasts where you sit there and you just watch people talk shit. Those are for some people.
Right.
But it's not for me.
Right.
I love to be educated at some point, whether it's philosophically, psychologically, emotionally, for somebody to say something that really impacts my life.
Right.
So I feel like even though we talk about drama or shit like that, I feel like we drop gems.
We do.
And we ask questions to make you as the listener think about, because at the end of the day, what's the point of a podcast if you're not coming here to grab something from us? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
and a lot of people, when it comes to pop culture or those gossipy trends or whatever, they're not thinking like that.
No, they're just spreading hate.
Right. So when they come here, they're like, wow, I didn't think about it like that. Or wow, you guys made me think. Or wow, you guys had me have sympathy for this person and that person. Or I like how you guys don't just dog people. Like, when you actually watch the episode, yes, the name is The Petty Headquarters because the shit we're talking about is pretty crazy, and sometimes problematic, the people who we cover. However, we are also here to dive deep and to drop gems, like you said.
And also, by the way, you talk your shit. That's your thing. I have no problems because, at the end of the day, there's something for everybody. And honestly, when I'm not, doing this, I love to, listen to people who talk their shit or whatever because it's funny. It's funny. I love it.
Right.
But I don't do that. You know what I'm saying? So it's not me. This is us.
Right.
This is us. So, that's all. That's all.
Yes.
I think that's good.
And with that being said, where can they find you?
You guys can find me on Instagram. That's JESSI.strange. And where can they find you, Tiana?
You guys can find me on Random Anyone on Instagram. You guys can find us on Instagram at The Petty Headquarters. We release episodes every Tuesday at 4 p.m. We are on all of your podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, all of that stuff. Anywhere you listen to your podcast at The Petty Headquarters. If you want to find the visual episodes, we are on YouTube at Petty Sim Productions. If you want to follow my funny sim talks, it is on TikTok at Petty Sim Productions. Keep up. Anywho, so yes, if you made it to the end of this video, definitely leave your thoughts and comment. Really appreciate that. We really do appreciate making y'all's day, because sometimes we don't be having the best days either. So, and we still make it here to record and have content and have these conversations. So with that being said, thank you for tuning in. And this was your weekly dose of mess.